Kolkata is a city built on layers of history, heavily defined by its century-old British colonial architecture. But behind the beautiful facades of these grand heritage buildings, you often find deep internal decay. That decay was obvious inside the Royal Crescent Hotel. It was a massive, oppressive structure, characterized by long, perpetually dark corridors, creaky wooden staircases, and imposing antique paintings that seemed to watch you as you walked by. For 26-year-old Rupa, a newly hired housekeeper, working the night shift here meant near total isolation. Most of the floors were empty, leaving her alone to navigate the sprawling, silent halls. Historic structures like the Royal Crescent hold forgotten histories. Over decades, entire rooms and corridors get sealed away, making modern occupants vulnerable to secrets that have existed right beneath their feet for generations. A few nights into her new job, the silence of Rupa's shift was broken. She heard a heavy, distinct dragging sound echoing from the second floor, specifically from inside a vacant honeymoon suite. She knocked, but no one answered. The hotel records confirmed 0 registered guests on that floor. So, assuming someone had broken in, Rupa swiped her master keycard and pushed the heavy door open. Suspended in the exact center of the room was a woman's body. Her hands and feet were bound tightly to the 4 posts of the bed. Her head had been completely severed, and the remaining torso was swaying slowly in the air like a grotesque pendulum. The police arrived in panic, immediately searching for a ritually motivated killer on the loose in Kolkata. But that theory hit an immediate wall. The honeymoon suite was perfectly locked from the inside. The mechanics of the crime scene defied physical logic. It was impossible to string a body up mid-air and exit a sealed room without breaking the lock, suggesting the investigation was moving past the limits of modern forensics. In the days following the discovery, Rupa's mental state severely deteriorated. She became highly paranoid, convinced that whatever she had seen in that room was now watching her. Her fear was validated one night at exactly 3 a.m. As she lay awake in her staff quarters, she heard that exact same heavy dragging sound outside her door. It stopped, followed immediately by 3 loud, deliberate knocks. Rupa froze. When she gathered the courage to look at the gap under her door, she saw a pair of bare feet, but the toes were pointing in the wrong direction, facing away from her door, dragging backward into the darkness. Terrified, she reported the encounter to hotel management the next morning. They completely dismissed her, writing off her experience as a trauma-induced hallucination. She was now entirely isolated. With the management refusing to help and the sounds at her door growing more frequent, Rupa was trapped between a reality no one else believed and a presence she could no longer ignore. Driven to find answers, Rupa started searching the hotel's old storage room. Buried under years of dust, she found a heavy wooden box covered in specific occult symbols, a large eye surrounded by faded handprints. Inside were black and white photographs from the 1930s. They showed people in dark robes and crude masks standing beneath a hanging, headless woman. On the back of the photo was a single word, Arpan, a Hindi word meaning sacrifice. Rupa handed the box to the investigators. By tracing the architectural details in the background of those photos, the police located a section of the floor plan that had been bricked over and forgotten, a British-era basement sealed shut since 1941. Inside, forensics uncovered a massive stone altar littered with human bones dating back 80 years. Beside the altar, they found a 1931 diary detailing the rituals of a secret society made up of Kolkata's wealthiest elites. The diary mapped out a rigid cycle of violence, where victims were abducted, bound mid-air, and killed. The final entry warned that the spirits invoked by these rituals would continue returning to the property until their final sacrifice was completed. Learning the truth, Rupa decided she was quitting in the morning. But that night, as she walked back to her quarters for the last time, the temperature in the corridor dropped, and her own shadow seemed to detach from her feet. She unlocked her bedroom door and stepped inside. Standing perfectly still in the darkness of her room were 5 tall figures wearing the exact same dark robes and masks from the 1930s photographs. They slowly turned to face her. Rupa's sanity fractured when she looked at their hands. Each masked figure was holding a rotting, severed woman's head. She screamed and bolted back out into the endless, empty hallways. She sprinted past locked door after locked door, grabbing every handle she could find, desperate for any room that would open. In her blind panic, she stopped caring about which floor she was on or where the halls led. She simply threw herself through the first door that wasn't locked. Inside the room, Rupa slammed the deadbolt shut and immediately dialed the police on her cell phone, screaming her location into the receiver. The dispatcher promised officers were on the way. Rupa hung up the phone. She looked around the dimly lit room to catch her breath, and a cold dread washed over her as she saw the 4 bedposts. She had unknowingly fled back into the honeymoon suite. The police arrived with sirens blaring, sprinting up to the 2nd floor, but the door was locked from the inside. By the time they forced it open, the room was silent. In the center of the room, Rupa's headless body was suspended midair, bound by all 4 limbs, swaying gently like a pendulum. And on the wall behind her, written in fresh blood, were the words, Antim Arpan, the final sacrifice. The authorities sealed the property, and though it eventually reopened under a new name, the history remained. Some events leave a permanent mark on a building, leaving the modern hotel forever defined by the debt paid that night.